The Monaco Grand Prix is known for being decided on Saturday, but nothing could have prepared us for what happened this time. The race was basically done and dusted after the first corner accident, and this has resulted in major backlash for F1 and the FIA from fans and even drivers. Okay, maybe Kevin Magnussen should not have held his foot in as he raced alongside Sergio Perez up the hill on the first lap of the Monaco Grand Prix when the track narrows. Likewise, Perez, having looked right and seen the Haas, undoubtedly should have estimated Magnussen's distance better than he did. But still, this track isn't fitted for the current era of F1 cars, right? Is there even anything they can do to make the race somewhat enjoyable? The massive crash that followed, the little struggle between the Alpine drivers, Sainz's little touch with Piastri, and the red flag the Perez-Magnussen crash produced drastically altered the story of the race. Everyone had changed tyres during the red flag, so it would be a train ride until the end from lap 2 onwards. And with the cars being as big and sluggish as they are, there was nothing the drivers could do about it. This has resulted in a big feedback loop for F1 and the FIA coming from the drivers, and it wasn't pretty what they had to say. Max Verstappen claims he was very bored at the Formula 1 Monaco Grand Prix because he was not really racing, owing to the tyre strategies and difficulty overtaking. Despite being one of the few drivers to choose for a second set of tyres, covering up Lewis Hamilton's undercut attempt a lap earlier and storming back up to the rear of George Russell's Mercedes, Verstappen couldn't find a way through, despite having a significant tyre advantage. After the red flag, our strategy was ruined as we had to put the medium onto the end as everyone had a free stop, and that meant that we had to save a lot, Verstappen said. I just tried to follow George and we were so off the pace trying to manage the tyres. That is of course quite boring out there, driving literally half throttle on the straights in some places, a gear higher than you would normally do and 4 seconds off the pace, so that is not really racing. Despite this, Verstappen accepts that the circuit layout is a component of racing at the Monaco Grand Prix and believes that modifying it would only add to the activity. First, I would like to try to, if there are possibilities, change a few things, he said, because it'll make the excitement even better. Overall, the weekend is really cool, just the Sunday is a little bit boring unfortunately, but the scenery is still great. If we can find a way to race a bit better, why not? That would be my preferred solution. Yes, to layout changes, because you cannot pass at the moment. If they ask for my opinion on changes, I will try to see what is possible. But it also depends what roads you are going to take. Verstappen was rather mild in his feedback for the weekend. One of his old teammates, however, he wasn't that nice. Not because of the track, but because of his teammate. That ex-teammate is Gasly, who once again had an incident with his teammate Ocon. This resulted in Pierre Gasly criticising and urging Alpine teammate Esteban Ocon to make a change after their accident on the opening lap of the Formula 1 Monaco Grand Prix. Ocon went on to dive down the inside of his teammate at Portier, their wheels interlocking. Ocon was blasted into the air and forced to withdraw owing to suspension and gearbox damage when his car crashed hard on the ground. Despite being happy to have ended his points drought in a situation where a point or two might be critical at the end of the year, Gasly said he was quite shocked by the touch with his colleague. It was very unnecessary. You should never have such a situation, especially between teammates, remarked the Frenchman. Just sad. Disappointed with the situation. Especially we had clear instructions before the race on what to do, and whoever qualified ahead, the trailing car was supposed to help throughout the race. That was the strategy. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. We definitely need to speak because we can't afford it, especially in a season like that. Gasly argued that Ocon jeopardised what could have been an even better finish for Alpine. At the moment, we were P9 and P10, so there was no need to risk getting both cars out. We came a couple of centimetres from having both cars in the wall. Asked whether Ocon's aggressiveness was inevitable, with him keen to secure an F1 seat for 2025, Gasly retorted, "I don't want to answer that. He's a professional driver. You just know what to and what not to do, even more with your teammate. He's a very good driver, he knows what he does, so he just needs to make a change." Meanwhile, Ocon took to Twitter to accept responsibility for the incident, for which the stewards issued him a 5-place grid penalty ahead of the Canadian Grand Prix. But he did not address Gasly directly, adding more fuel to the fire burning within Alpine. And Esteban Ocon's first lap attack on Pierre Gasly also enraged Alpine head Bruno Famin to the point of threatening action, which could result in Ocon being booted from the team. "It's sad to see this kind of incident," he said. "It's exactly what we didn't want to see. Esteban's attack was totally out of circumstances. It was exactly what we didn't want to see, and we're going to draw the consequences. We're going to make a tough decision. If we were fighting for a podium finish at the end of the race, why not? And still... But there, on the first lap at Le Portier, frankly, it wasn't the place to make an attack, leaving zero room for his teammate. Ocon's contract with Alpine expires at the end of the 2024 Formula 1 season, and the French driver has recently been at pains to bring up his Mercedes affiliation since he has been linked with the empty cockpit at Mercedes. Alpine's backup driver is Australian Jack Doohan, and the team also has Mick Schumacher on its roster. The German driver still holds a valid F1 super license and has remained a contender for an F1 spot. And then, finally, the moment of the weekend, that crash on lap 1. This resulted in some big words from certain drivers, especially since Magnussen come out of it without any penalties. Sergio Perez expressed shock that Kevin Magnussen received no penalty for his role in their hard first lap crash at the Monaco Grand Prix, which resulted in an early red light. Magnussen is only 2 penalty points away from a one-race ban, but he avoided punishment because the FIA stewards ruled the collision a racing event, stating that he would have been very surprised if he had been fined for the contact. Perez disagreed, claiming that Magnussen was in the wrong and should have backed out of the maneuver. If you see my onboard, at no point you see Kevin's car, not even close to me, alongside me, and you could see that the wall is just getting closer and closer, Perez rued. To keep it flat out, there was only one way out of it, and it was either contact with my car or with the barrier. There was just simply no room for both cars, and at some point he had to realise that. I mean, I've been in that occasion, and many times when you are the car behind you just have to realise that it's time to back off before things get closer to you. I'm very surprised the incident was not investigated, because of the amount of damage and how dangerous the damage was. I'm really surprised. When asked what he thought of Magnussen's claim that he should have been granted space, Perez underlined that the Dane should have lifted off and was not entitled to room given his position on the track. He also stated that the incident may be considered dangerous driving, and that Magnussen seemed unconcerned about the implications of his conduct. I think he clearly shouldn't be there in the first place because there is just one way to get out of that. It will be just to hit the wall. He either hit the wall or hit my car. The right side of my car. So how does he want me to leave him room if he's not even alongside? There's a point where you see the wall is coming to you and you just have to back off. It has happened to me many times, and there's a point where you just have to back off. I'm really surprised. I get the lap 1 let them race, but I think this was more dangerous driving just to keep it flat out knowing that they were going to come contact me. At some point I think that was some dangerous driving. I don't think he really thinks about the outcome. You sometimes find yourself in a position and you have to take a very quick decision to say, okay, there's only one way of it and it's going to be contact, so I'd better back out. But he will go for the contact. What's your take on the Monaco GP? Should there be changes, and are you on board with the criticism from the drivers? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.